Number 10, Scottie Barnes for the Toronto Raptors. I've come to love Scottie Barnes. I think he's
Yeah.
an outstanding player, all-star already. 23 years old, 20 points, 8.2 rebounds, 6 assists, big time playmaking defensive numbers.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
We'll talk about the defense in general. I think it's a little bit less than what the playmaking numbers indicate, but that's fine. 47% from the field, 34% from three, 78% from the line. Career true shooting percentage, very similar ballpark to Cade, right? Where like 5% below league average. Cade was at 6% last year. I think Scottie was like right around maybe like 2 or 3 below league average, if I remember correctly. But has become like a real on ball player, like can play some pseudo point, can like he and Emmanuel quickly will share the on ball responsibilities this year for Toronto. Unbelievable in transition. I think his passing ability continues to go underrated. I think Scottie Barnes is an unbelievable passer. Just in terms of the quickness of decision making, the way he's another guy that you kind of brought up with Amen Thompson, ability to grab and go on the break, like
Yeah.
serious grab and go ability, not just fake grab and go ability where you bring the ball up the court. Ability to get all the way to the rim, ability to pressure the defense in grab and go situations, but also the ability with his enormous hands to throw like real live dribble passes at a high level, right? I think Scottie is fantastic. I think he's an outstanding player. And, I'm fascinated to see where it goes. My question with Scottie, as it always has been and always continues to be, is the jumper. It's just always been so wildly inconsistent throughout the course of his career. He has games where he is phenomenal as a shooter. Like he made 7 threes in a game earlier this year, right? And then in the final 24 games of his season this year, so almost half of his season, he shot 24% from three this year. So it's just hit or miss. He's very streaky as a shooter, and that's better than what I thought he'd be coming in. But we're now 3 years into it being streaky when he was ahead of the curve, as a rookie, but hasn't. I thought he took strides early in the season last year, and then it
Yeah.
just completely reverted to what it had been previously, and that's what I think makes the conversation around what Scottie's upside is very complicated.
Yeah, that's where I just don't know. For what it's worth, I had him in this same spot where we had him. I think I had him 10 on mine, and we ended up with 10
Yeah, I
here.
had him 11. So
Yeah, the defense off the ball, especially. So he's a very demonstrative communicator defensively.
yes,
Like I can hear him whenever I'm watching film, which is always fun to see. Sometimes you can like see guys pointing and you can see their mouths moving, but you don't always actually hear them. Like Scottie, you can hear. There
yeah,
was I think it was Orlando Magic's bench too, just to change subjects a little bit. You could hear one of their assistant coaches calling out actions and stuff. I always enjoy that. But anyway, his off-ball defense, like low man rim protector, I think that's where he provides the most value. Like I think that's where his defense is at its best, is off the ball, low man, kind of that roamer role. I think that's the best defending Scottie Barnes. Offensively, it's just very interesting. I don't know where to pinpoint him. I think he could be a good off the ball cutter. I think you can do some creative, he can play as the handler, he can play as the roller, he can play on ball. I just like, what does he ultimately settle into? I'm sure I made
yeah,
Raptors fans mad because again, when we did the Aaron Gordon thing, I said that he would probably be the next Aaron Gordon because maybe he wasn't quite good enough to play on the ball and have all the wiggle and shake and everything necessary to do that, but would be just this high level kind of role player type ish. I wasn't projecting that or predicting it. I was just saying I could see that being what ends up happening. Can he be the offensive hub? Like you say, you have offensive hub skills there. Is that what he ends up being? In that category of, I just don't like, is the on ball stuff that good? Are you there with it on the ball where he can be the sole primary guy?
not the sole guy, but I think that not yet. He can't be the number one on a good team yet, but I'm a lot more bullish, I think, on him having that ceiling than what I thought I would be at this point. I never really expected it, but the big key for me is just the shooting and the scoring, right? Like, can he consistently score the basketball at a level that allows him to be that? Can he continue to grow as a shooter in a way that allows him to be that player? I think in terms of like getting to spots, in terms of passing, playmaking, decision making, all of that is there. Like, I trust the handle enough to allow him with his athletic tools. I mean, like another guy that's like a pretty underrated athlete, honestly, probably league
Sure.
wide,
Yeah.
just in terms of being like 6'7", 7'2" wingspan, 230 pounds, powerful, strong, physical. Like he can do all of that and get to the spots. Like he has so much of a greater margin for error on his handle because of the fact that he does have those physical advantages, right? So it really comes down to the shooting for me. Can he consistently make shots at a high level? Can he consistently make mid-range jumpers at a high level? Can he consistently make pull-up threes at a high level? We're into the area now where basically everybody except for, I would say, probably just one guy is like basically a primary guy that's left on our list, right? Can be a primary guy. We're projecting that he can be a primary guy and will be a primary guy, right?
Yeah. Maybe
I'd say
two.
only maybe two, but I would say one in all honesty. That's why this is a little bit harder and probably like a touch lower than where you would expect a guy that's 23 years old, just made an all-star game at 22, made an all-star game in the Eastern Conference, but like whatever, right? But to me, like it is all about like, where does the pull-up jumper come from? Like we talked a lot about, Scoot Henderson and like not being able to shoot, right? Scoot made a higher percentage of his pull-up mid-range jumpers this year and made a higher percentage of his pull-up three-point jumpers. Do you know what percent Scottie Barnes made on his pull-up threes this year?
Um,
I'm turning the trivia tables on you, Bryce.
23%.
19%.
Wow.
Do you know what he made the year before? Pull-up jumpers from three.
From three. 27%.
19.6%. So basically he's been like the same guy as a shooter, off the bounce from three. Made a higher percentage of mid-range jumpers this year off the bounce, which is critical, went from 36 to 40%. But those are numbers still not good enough to actually be the primary guy, right? If you're going to have the ball in your hands all the time is like the primary pull-up option. So that's where my concern lies. I will say this, defensively, you mentioned like the free safety, like playmaker role.
Yeah.
I thought he was great in that role defensively this year.
Yep.
They shifted him toward that. Like they used to use him a little bit more at the point of attack, used to use him like in a bit more of like a solid, defensive role. I didn't think he was great at that. Like, agreed. I actually think that he is less switchable than what people see when they just look at the frame.
Yeah.
Right. I think he is somebody that kind of has like higher hips and like kind of struggles to change direction as easily as, some of the really good defenders on the ball in the league. Right.
Yeah.
But his instincts and basketball IQ as a free safety this year were unbelievable. Like his playmaking, like see ball, go get ball, like, Ed Reed style, just finding the, turnover, the interceptions, the, rotating over and blocking a shot. That was all like, he is really, really good at that stuff in terms of making defensive plays. I think sometimes the closeouts are a little bit heavy and result in blow-bys at times, but that's like being kind of nitpicky on some level on the defense. I think overall, because he is such a defensive playmaker in that free safety role that they have him in, I think he is a positive defender now. I honestly would have said coming into this year, I thought he was not a great defender in his second year.
No, that's why I said like the off ball low man defender is the best. Scottie Barnes is the best Scottie Barnes defender, because I agree. I don't think trying to use him as the primary defender on all these different matchups is where he's best used. Like there's some matchups that make sense, right? But you don't want to just like go send him against, these small twitchy guards. He's not switchable in that way. And so I think because he is so engaged, because he is so demonstrative off the ball with the athleticism, like you said, that we probably don't mention enough, he just really fits well into that off ball kind of roamer role. And there's nothing wrong with that. That can be super, super impactful, right? I mean, we raved about Evan Mobley and him being in the top tier of those type of guys. I mean, is Scottie a tier, but one tier, but like he's definitely not in that tier, but one tier below that in a similar type of role, off ball defender, 2 tiers below that.
The closeout stuff and the, overall like within rotation team stuff is a little bit less good for me. But yeah, he's like right at the level, like below the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
In terms of that, like he's a great help defender and he's a great defensive playmaker. He's like not like a, he's not an all defense guy.
Sure.
When I watch him.
Yeah.
Even though the playmaking numbers would suggest that.
Sure.
I think on a possession, like, 2.8, stocks per game, right? Let's say he averages another like 6, in total between stocks and deflections, he might be at like, 5 or 6 of those per game. That's still what, like 8 or 9% of the defensive possessions he plays in a single game. So he's solid overall on defense now, like in the role he plays, but I don't want to act like those are the only things he does. He doesn't. He's quite good. But I think the other defensive possessions are not quite as consistently high level as compared to the elite of the elite. Other guys that like disrupt just with their presence, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, like it comes down to the shooting. If Scottie Barnes is going to shoot, he's like an all NBA player.
Yeah.
Point blank. If he doesn't shoot, he is a really effective, awesome, like third player on a team that like probably will help that team win a title at some point. But that's the level we're at now. Like in this top 10 list, the NBA is like in incredible shape with the young guys that they have right now. For Scottie to be 10th on this thing is crazy. Scottie is awesome.
No, that's what I said. When I first started listing it, I was like, oh man, this is going to be way, way tougher than what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of really talented players.